8 years ago, I uploaded one of my very first Age of Empires 2 casts. Didn't watch it? Listen in.
What's going on, guys? T90XVI here.
Yeah, back then my name was T90XVI. I then realized XVI didn't make any sense. Not to mention, didn't have any significance to me whatsoever. I just thought the Roman numeral was cool and changed it to official. And here we are. And if you're wondering, wow, T90, how'd you get here? That's probably a topic for another video. But the reason I'm making this and the reason I mention it is because I found out about the Age of Empires 2 subreddit that day because of this comment. Basically, what happened was there was someone who had left a comment which is kind of mean. I didn't really understand why that person would have said such a thing. And then there was a comment from all caps, yeah, a player that I know pretty well from back then, and said, "Great game and commentary, man. Don't mind the troll. Side effect of being on the front page of our AoE2. So I had never used Reddit at that point. I didn't even know what it was. Eventually found the Age of Empires 2 subreddit. I think there was about 1,200 or 1,300 subscribers to that subreddit back then. And now we have almost 150,000 people who use Reddit and occasionally are posting memes and informative things on our subreddit. And I'll be honest, with the multiple YouTube channels and all the streams and the tournaments and everything that I do, it's sometimes important for me to step away from another form of ingesting Age of Empires 2 content. So I haven't frequented the subreddit this year as much as I did in the past. But I loaded it up today and I loved the memes and it kind of blew my mind. Look at this. This post from Outlaw0125 said, "Today I realized the Dark Age Barracks is just a Dark Age house with a palisade around it." And I'm going to be honest, this had never dawned on me at all. That looks very much like a house. How did I not realize this? Thankfully, so many people in the comments said the same thing. Listen, OP, I'm 32 and I started playing AoE when I was 12. I've been playing for 2 decades. I've never noticed this detail. This person's 18, must feel good to be young, but they noticed it. That's awesome. There were some funny comments on this. You have a comment from Pikachu here. It says, "Literally a fortified house that can withstand the brute force of mindless clubmen and that one guy with a horse." And this person says, "I love this description of a drush so much." Anyways, you guys might consider this weak content, but since then, there's been a lot of other memes, and they've been firing off all day today. Almost immediately after that, we had a post from one of my mods and someone I've known in the community a long time, on day 23, and says, "Today I learned a Dark Age house with palisades around it cannot produce militia." Which, I mean, admittedly, it does look a little different than a barracks, but it does crack me up knowing that the barracks is pretty similar to having a house with palisades around it. There's been other things too. This person says, "I've recently started playing AoE2 again. Is my base layout all right?" And you could, I mean, this is an awful screenshot, to be honest. The quality's not as up to par. But you see a lot of houses. You see the barracks here. I suppose that's the town center. And no, unfortunately for you, that's not exactly how you play it. And there's a couple more memes I could show you. You could always head to the subreddit to check it out. But guys, that is not the focus of this video, okay? The focus of this video is on buildings. So the whole rest of this video, I just want to inspect buildings because we've got to be missing some things. And this could be a multi-episode series where we just zoom in on buildings. So anyways, here we've got the house. So here's the deal. We've got lots of different architecture these days. Houses do change as well, or all buildings rather do change as you advance up through each age. So we're just going to keep it simple for this video. I wanted to say respect to those who are memeing on the subreddit, but there's our house. Okay. There's the barracks. Now, upon further inspection, it is not an exact replica of said house, but it looks as though they have torn out the wall of said house. Now, this has been bothering me, right? Because this house has a perfectly good curtain opening, right? And that's how people enter the houses, if you're the Khmer. But, like, why did they just rip a hole through the wall? What happened to the other, what happened to the curtains? My theory is that the curtains are actually on the other side, and that's the other opening. So that's like the back door entrance or exit, and then you have the main entrance here, and this is where they do some of the training. I will say, I'd never noticed that there were swords on the little bench here, but who can even sit on that bench? Wouldn't your butt fall right through the opening there? That's the worst bench I've ever seen. Maybe you're supposed to sit on the sword, and you've got a random little barrel, or I guess a bowl or a pitcher, a bucket, whatever. That's cool. Anyways, This is pretty cool. I also don't know if the sword was always there too. Again, zooming in on these buildings really gives me a nice little appreciation for it. Gotta love the little dummy there that they're probably practicing their little malicious pokes with. Anyway, so we move on. We got the archery range. I wanted to talk about a couple other buildings. That's going to be this entire video. Please leave me your thoughts. So what do we notice about the archery range? Well, we noticed that these archers are highly inaccurate. Highly inaccurate. Not a single one of these arrows has hit the bullseye, and they have tried from many different angles. Another thing I noticed, is this not a little dangerous to have people like firing crisscross directions? Why wouldn't you just have 3 targets and then have the people all fire one direction? I guess they didn't really have regulations back then. Maybe after a couple accidents, things start to really go south. Also, I'm not sure if this is just like weeds or if these are arrows. But upon looking at these arrows and these arrows, I think these could be arrows. I'm not too sure. Again, not an archery expert. Oh god, there's more there too? I can't really tell, but I don't think you should be putting your arrows in the dirt because that will dull the arrowheads. But okay, anyways, there's also a window here, so that's pretty cool. You got to get a peek inside. Seems like the doors are always open in these buildings. And there must be a fire in there too because of the way things are lit up. But, you know, the archer range doesn't have a house. It does maybe look like the archer range is a combination with a tower. I remember always thinking that, or wishing, excuse me, that you could garrison archers and that the archer range would shoot arrows because this is essentially a tower. But that's not how the game works. Okay, here we have the blacksmith. And the blacksmith's pretty cool. You've got a barrel here filled with water. You've got what looks like a little oven. You know, obviously they're heating up all the different tools to forge them into the right shape. Again, you've got some armor here. You've got some axes here, regardless of if you get throwing axemen or not. But I guess they could suffice for some different tools. And again, a lot of doors are open. The thing that was always very frustrating for me as a kid is that there's smoke coming out of here and smoke isn't coming out of here. And yet, this is a very darkened chimney. So this amount of soot would make you think that this is a chimney that sees some use. It never sees use, sadly. Also, with all this flame and fire, it does also make me think that maybe they need to use metal roofs or stone roofs or something other than dry hay. But hey, I mean, if my buildings catch on fire in Age of Empires 2, they never burn down. They just kind of stay there burning indefinitely, so I guess it works out. Okay, so the market is actually something that I looked at very frequently over the years. If you've been following my content, sometimes I just get bored and I just look at the buildings. But I guess the Dark Age Celt market's a little different. I know they share architecture with other civilizations, but I noticed there's a lot more variety here than what the game offers. The game just offers food, stone, gold, and wood. But look at this, man. I mean, this looks like it's bread. This may be some apples or potatoes. You got like maybe some yams in there, some gourds, some tomatoes, some apples I'm going to roll with there. Could be pears, possibly. It's a little blurry. A little bit of stone, I suppose, is nice. Some peppers. You got a lot of fruit in there. You know, meanwhile, the villagers just kind of get fruit bushes and berry bushes. But the biggest thing that surprised me is the towels. Tell me that's what these are, guys. I believe these are towels, right? They look like towels to me. I've never seen a villager swim. Anytime my villager falls into the water, he just drowns instantly. It's not like Roller Coaster Tycoon where you could just pick them up and, you know, grab them from the water and throw them somewhere else. When I played Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, I would drown them intentionally. But anyways, that was pretty cool. We got some towels there. I'm going to be highly embarrassed if that's not what that is. But I mean, what else is it? A rug? Come on, it's the same thing. And you also have a bell on the market. And there's never a bell sound from the market. You kind of hear people in a gathering when you click the market. That's what that is, right? I think a bunch of people just chatting. You never see the people in the market. But yeah, the bell never sees any use. I imagine the way this is set up is you're supposed to pull the string and it rings the bell. And then it's like, hey, market's open. Get your pears for the day. But yeah, That never happens. The mill, at least for this civilization, you have a donkey who is running around in an infinite loop. You never see this donkey take a break. You never see this donkey get fed. He just looks at the ground, does his job, and I feel really bad for him. There's also leaves on top of the mill, at least in this age. That can change in later ages, but if we're looking at details, the fact that there are leaves here is a little bit of a surprise to me. Also, maybe they ran out of trees to be able to put on top of this thing because they've kind of gone for what looks like some type of a rug or something. There might be some purpose to that, but the fact that the roof is comprised of two different things and leaves, certainly something to talk about. And the final building that is going to blow your mind, that is going to bother you to your core, and might actually encourage the devs to add one more thing to our game, is the fact that the town center has bear pelts, which are in the game. Brown bear, grizzly bear, bear. But there's also polar bear pelts, and there are no polar bears in the game. Now, I'm 90% certain that there's no polar bears. I looked in the scenario editor. I didn't see any polar bears. There was a part of me that said, I thought there was polar bears. So maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm going to have my editor check. But anyways, maybe the devs need to add some polar bears here because they're going to add dead polar bears, but not live polar bears. I mean, come on. The drama and disrespect from our dev team is just unbelievable. Final thing, by the way, this isn't even connected. What's going on here, man? Does that get connected later? I'm pretty sure it does. I guess once they're in feudal age, they have the resources to be able to make this look a little bit different. So anyways, those were just some Dark Age buildings. This wasn't really meant to be the longest video ever. It's probably the lowest effort content that I've put out in a long time, but low effort content can be fun. Memes are good for the community, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Here's the base of the AI I was playing against. And they seem very confused with things on this scenario. Anyways, let me know what you think. And if you're curious and watching the cast that I uploaded from 8 years ago, where I sound like a child and I really didn't have a ton of game knowledge, but I just love the game and never imagined that it would blow up into something as big as it is, we'll link that in the description. Try not to be too harsh. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.